Hello everybody, it's Jim again. Welcome to the Chairman's Club. Today we'll be talking to Ralph Ambrosio, who's running for the 20th Congressional District. Really excited to have Ralph in here today and to talk about his run against Paul Tonko, a guy who has been in office for 43 years. And if you're a resident of upstate New York, you know what those results look like. So Ralph, I'd really like to just kind of begin with your background, who you are.
Sure. Well, I'm Ralph Ambrosio. I lived in Albany County. I have lived in upstate New York pretty much all my entire life. I'm a Navy vet.
Where were you born?
I was born in Chatham.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm a Navy vet. A 23-year veteran of the New York State Police. I've been an assistant counsel, state police, prosecutor, public defender, and assistant attorney general. I've been a husband for 47 years. And a father of four. My wife and I have four boys, and a brand new grandfather of two little girls.
That's amazing. So have you ever run for political office before?
Yes, I ran for DA 2 years ago in Albany County.
That's right. That was an incredible race. So as we know, Albany County is a very difficult place to run as a Republican, right? I think there's about 3 Democrats to every one Republican, but that was a big race. It was highly publicized. I feel like you were on TV multiple times every single week.
Sure.
And I believe that you kind of overperformed your numbers. Is that correct?
Yes, we did very well. We were over 48,000 votes. There are only 36,000 Republicans in Albany County, and you, of course, you were right in the mix of it. We did a great job, I think. You did a great job, and I want to thank you for doing it.
Yeah, no, that was an exciting race, and I think it really set you up for this race, because this race is in a much more winnable district. The 20th Congressional District has a lot of rural areas. I believe the ratio Democrat to Republican is about 1.85 to 1, as opposed to 3 to 1.
Much better. Sure.
Like you were facing in Albany County. So that's a big deal. All right. Why don't you tell me a little bit about your kind of upbringing, your family? I know you said you started in Chatham. How'd you make your way to Del Mar?
Well, I lived in Chatham pretty much all of my early life. When I graduated from college, I moved up to Del Mar. I met my wife while I was in the state police. We moved up here actually when I was brought up to the state police headquarters over here on, the state campus, they call it, Harriman Building 22.
Oh, okay.
So we moved to
Sure.
Del Mar, 7 miles away. It was an absolutely perfect fit. So that's how I got it. That's how I got it.
Yeah. Okay. So you've been in Del Mar now for almost 40 years?
Sure, a little over 40 years now.
Amazing. Okay. So tell me, why did you decide to get back into the mix and take on a guy like Paul Tonko? Like I said, a guy who's been in politics for over 4 decades. A lot of people just think, this guy's unbeatable, he's never going to go away. Even though upstate New York is not doing well, it's been in decline for some time. And I do think there's a lot of people that are desperate for change because they want to stay here. They want to keep their families here. They want to keep their families together. They want to think about their futures here. But some of these entrenched politicians, they're like Dracula. They just never go away. So what made you think about getting involved, getting into this race, and taking on someone like Paul Tonko?
Well, I certainly don't need the money, and I don't need the job.
Yeah.
However, it was December 1st of 1969. Vietnam War was raging.
Yeah.
People were dying, and my draft number came up in the lottery. I was watching TV just like everybody else between the ages of 18 and 26.
Yeah.
I was watching the lottery, and my number came up 310. And I was very relieved because I knew I was not going to be drafted.
I was going to say, it must have been a scary time.
It was very scary. But after I realized that I wasn't going to be drafted, I started thinking about my life. And I lived with my parents, of course, and my father was a decorated World War II vet, saw action in the South Pacific and stormed Normandy for D-Day.
Yeah.
All of my early male role models were World War II vets who had seen action. And my father and I were floor sanders, and our ritual was we'd get up every morning, we'd have breakfast, load up the truck, and go sand floors. Well, the thought crossed my mind that I was going to have to sit there and look at my father every morning, and I was going to wonder what he thought of me if I didn't join, if I didn't do my part. And I thought maybe he'd think I didn't like my country, didn't love my country, or maybe he thought I didn't have the guts, or I don't know what.
The greatest generation could be intimidating, right?
It was very intimidating. but intimidating in a good way. Their love of country was aspirational.
Sure.
You know, they want to make a more perfect union. My father gave me one heck of a country. This is the greatest country in
It's what
the
made it the greatest country in the world.
Right. So now, I joined because it was the right thing to do. And you know, we're in a crisis now, and you know, there are people for the first time in 50 or 60 years are starting to say, you know, we're likely not to give our kids and grandkids a better country than we got. Now, my father gave me, and my father and mother gave me a great country.
Yeah.
I'm not going to accept the fact that I'm not going to give my son and my grandchildren a better country. So that's why I'm running.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's more a call to duty. And, you know, I do think these are desperate times. Like you said, there's been some polling that's shown for the first time since Jimmy Carter, people feel like tomorrow is not going to be better than today. And you know, that's a terrible terrible pattern and a terrible cycle that if it continues, obviously things are going to get much, much worse. So in jumping into the race, I'm sure you have some things that are really important that you want to see get done, that, you know, are lagging right now, things that, you know, maybe Paul Tonko just doesn't believe in, maybe he has different priorities. What are the things that are important to you that you think can make the 20th Congressional District better?
Well, there are 4 objectives that I'm going to work towards achieving when I go to Washington, D.C. First thing we have to do is we have to elect me and send me to Washington.
Exactly.
And when I get
the
there,
status quo isn't going to change a damn thing.
No. And well, there are four major issues and subjects that I'm going to attack. The first, I want to lower the cost of living while simultaneously boosting economic opportunity. That's number 1. Number 2, we're going to have an all-of-the-above energy policy. Number 3, we're going to have safety and security. We're going to back the blue. We're going to make sure that the police on all levels, local, state, and federal, are properly funded, properly trained. And lastly, which may be the most difficult lift of all 4, is we've got to regain control of our country, of our government. Our government is out of control.
The career politicians.
Term limits are essential.
You know, our founders never imagined this career politician garbage.
No, I agree.
They all believed that public service should be painful and should be a tremendous sacrifice for love and good of country. And then you're supposed to go back to your private life. They offered George Washington to be a king of the new country. And, you know, George Washington actually modeled his life after Cincinnatus. He believed that, you know, you serve, you do your duty. He was a general, then you go back to your farm.
Right.
You lay down your sword and you move on. So, yeah, no, I do think that the out-of-control spending, the NGOs, the career politicians, the corruption, the insider trading, all that stuff, it's a tremendous grift and a tremendous rot and cancer on our country that I don't actually think we can get back to prosperity until we get this stuff out. Cut it out like a surgeon.
Well, as I said, the last of the 4 objectives that I have is the heaviest lift, because we are a great country in spite of our government, not because of it.
Right.
And the more government you have in your life, as Tonko is the main advocate of this, the worse off we are. Yeah. And being able to get our government back is going to be a challenge.
It is. And what scares me is, you know, even though yours is a federal race, I'm a firm believer that there is no silos.
No.
It's all one big mess,
Sure.
right? From state policy all the way up to the federal government. We talk about corruption and NGOs and, you know, it's a problem that spans kind of every level of government. We see it right here in our town in Bethlehem. We have bad water. We have, you know, a highway superintendent that is spending money out of control. They had to take his rights to the credit card. He can't use his town credit card anymore. Yeah. He sold equipment for pennies on the dollar to his buddies. You know, all of this stuff. It's just like nothing's getting better. It continues to collapse. I mean, there was a huge scandal up the road with a restaurant. Didn't pay their taxes for over a decade. The business environment is really tough. So I think everybody's struggling and finding how are they going to make ends meet. There is no silos. This is all one big problem, and we need quality people like you to step forward and run for these offices. So if you think about, you get elected, you get to Washington, we talk about lower the cost of living. What are some of the big areas that we can attack to get the cost of living down?
Well, first of all, taxes.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got to reduce taxes. The more taxes we pay, the less money we have to do what we want to do, to pursue happiness that we want.
Yeah.
And it also puts this money in government. And the numbers, Jim, I mean, when you start talking about billions and trillions of dollars.
How about $2 trillion deficits are now becoming the norm? This is outrageous.
You just had the Obamacare needs an infusion of $1.3 trillion.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine that many zeros. And it's hard to imagine that public, the Democrats like to say, well, Obamacare works. Well, yeah, if you're going to infuse it every few years with $1 trillion.
That's kind of the same thing with alternative energy, right? It's like, oh, it's cheap. Well, it's cheap because the government is taxing the hell out of you and then subsidizing the hell out of. I mean, I just read the other day that after, 15 years of all these mandates and restrictions that they've put on nuclear and fossil fuel and the hundreds of billions that they've pumped into alternative energy. Did you know only 1/5 of our electricity comes from alternatives?
Yes.
And that's after 15 years of pain.
Yes.
They want to go 100%. That's never going to happen. That's not realistic.
Well, they've admitted that.
Yeah.
They've admitted that now. And I think the governor here in Hogan, like you say, money is fungible. Tax dollars are fungible. You pay federal taxes, that ends up in the state coffers. Look what's happening between the state and New York City. Money is just washing back and forth.
Right.
There are no boundaries to
the problem with, so you talk about the money washing back and forth. So we just saw the bailout from Mamdani down in New York City. And now he's claiming that he balanced the budget and everything's wonderful. With no cuts, with no reforms, with no changes in behavior, everything's balanced, it's all good, and we're going to keep every program, we're not going to cut anything.
And I just don't know how people upstate. We have a lot of elected officials, not our elected officials. Jake Ashby's great, Scott Bendett's great, all the fellas that are Republicans up here, but all of the Democrat representatives up here vote with New York City. I don't get it.
Yeah.
It's like a swirling, sucking sound. And as you just said, I've heard between 4 billion and 8 billion, somebody said 9 billion, that Hochul is now giving the New York City, Mamdani. I don't know where it ends. I don't know how it stops, except we got to get these politicians out and put responsible adults in the program.
Yeah. And as much as I hate to play the red team, blue team stuff, the reality is there's just not enough responsible Democrats that are willing to make the changes necessary. And that's why I really am asking everyone in upstate New York, no matter what their party affiliation is to look what the parties are doing, look what their philosophies are, and look at their track records. I mean, you talk about Kathy Hochul trying to push out mandate frontiers and things like that because she realizes it's really harming the state. She doesn't have enough Democrats to get behind her.
That's the supermajority is just crazy.
They all want to hold on to this insanity almost like some sort of weird death cult. They want to stick to these ideas no matter how much evidence is presented that it isn't working. Let's go to one of the biggest. 122,000 people left New York State last year.
Sure.
Net.
Yep.
Okay. So that is a major constriction of the tax base. When the tax base constricts, but you don't want to cut any social welfare programs or spending, what do? You got to raise taxes. You got to find those dollars somewhere. And what's hilarious is those are exactly the policies that are driving people out. So it puts us at the beginning of a death spiral. Unless we get major change in these policies, both at the state and federal level, we're going to continue to see precipitous decline. So you talk about kind of your platform, lower the cost of living. I think we got to get the taxes down. I know you've talked a little bit about deregulation.
Deregulation, yeah, that's the second side of it. You have the affordability issue as two sides. One is obviously the spending on the taxes, and the other is deregulation. Bringing up Kathy Hochul, let them build. She constantly admits that what she is doing is wrong.
Right.
Let who build and who's keeping them from building? Well, you put regulations on builders to the point where only super large companies can comply with these regulations
because of the barriers.
The little guy gets squeezed out. Plus, you didn't mention, you're probably too kind to mention, but Kathy Hochul, what does she do? She has to beg the millionaires to come back to New York State.
Didn't she tell them to leave a couple years ago?
Yes, she did. She
told them to go to Palm Beach with her buddy.
Now she told them to go to Palm Beach and get your friends and bring them back.
Yeah.
God bless.
Yeah. So first she told them to leave. Now she needs them and a friend to come back.
Please come back
to make up for the budget.
We were only kidding.
Yeah, and that brings me to something that Paul Tonko posted yesterday. It just blew my mind, and it really fits with your lower the cost of living strategy, which is all of the above energy. And all of the above energy is really about why are we restricting ourselves and not going after every available piece of energy in the supply, because we're lagging in supply, right? And if you're lagging in supply, the costs are going to be higher, and you're not going to be able to win the AI race either, right? Data centers are the new thing to supply data capability for artificial intelligence. And this is going to be a big thing, not only across the United States, where states are going to compete against each other, but then also as a country versus all of our foreign adversaries. And artificial intelligence is going to open up a completely new frontier. It's something that we can't afford to lose. We have to win the AI race. So Paul Tonko the other day posts that Republicans don't care about energy costs, and he doesn't understand why Republicans don't care about working families and their high energy bills. And it literally blew my mind, because from my understanding, and I'd like to get your take on it. From my understanding, Paul Tonko has spent 15 years restricting fossil fuel, restricting nuclear, and funneling hundreds of billions of dollars into alternatives. And these three things alone have destroyed the energy market, hampered supply dramatically, and driven up costs, multifold. So I just, is it just gaslighting? What is he doing saying Republicans don't care when he's the one who drove up the cost of energy?
Well, this is a pattern that you've seen on many fronts, including immigration. What happens is the Democrats make an entire mess out of the energy system by restricting fossil fuels, the production of fossil fuels, which reduces supply, which increases demand, which drives prices up. Right. They create this mess.
By the way, this is like freshman in college economics 101.
Yeah, well, you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
You knew it was coming. You knew everybody was arguing, don't do this, because if you restrict the flow of fossil fuels and energy production, you're going to increase demand. And increased demand raises prices. So they make this mess, and now when we try to clean it up, we're the people at fault. Well, we're not at fault. You have to let the private sector determine what the rates are. I know for a fact that NYSERDA had put out information even 15 years ago that foresaw this late stage problem that we're having right now.
Yeah.
The bills are coming due. All of the things they've been doing for 15 years, now we realize that this is making our energy bills exponentially larger.
Yeah.
Some people are telling me that they've got they're doubling their utility bills.
Oh, for sure.
NYSERDA wrote a memo, we probably talked about it a while ago, that says that our utility bills, each ratepayer in the 20th Congressional District, they can see their rate or their utility bill go up as much as $4,000 more a year. In the 20th Congressional District, that's almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
And it's a direct result of the restriction of the fossil fuels and the alternative, all of the above sources of energy. This is the plan that Tonko has made. And it is completely inappropriate for him to criticize us as we try to clean it up.
I mean, I've said for years, sometimes you just have to really simplify this stuff. No amount of money that you give to the Democrats is going to lower the Earth's temperature.
No.
It's just an absurd idea. And the truth is, like, the Earth is a wonderful system that works well when you leave it alone, right? So they're pushing solar. Okay, well, solar requires a lot of deforestation.
They were just
right. So you put solar and you chop trees down. Yeah. Well, nothing scrubs CO2 better than a tree, right? And so all this deforestation is then going to make it harder to take CO2 out of the atmosphere. If they would just leave things alone, we would do a better job of controlling the atmosphere than all this artificial intervention, which is really about power control. It's not.
That's it.
It's not really about lowering the Earth's temperature. It's about power over, your fellow man, consolidating power. And it just hasn't worked. I mean, look, they've been making these claims for a long time. You can go back and look about if we invest in alternatives, we're going to lower the cost of energy. You can go back to 2015 and see this. Here we are in 2026. We've never been paying more. There's no end in sight. The NYSERDA memo just came out saying we're going to pay even more if we continue on this path. We have a leftist, liberal, Democrat governor who was even saying like, "Hey guys, let's pump the brakes." Right? So it's just it's an absolute mess. All right, so lower the cost of living, all the above energy, really important. Let's talk a little bit, because this plays into everything, and I think people don't understand how inextricably linked it is to prosperity, the business environment, everything else. Talk about the criminal justice system. I know this is what your career has been, and I know you and I have had some discussions about how important it is to underpin all of the other things that we want to see happen.
Well, I went through the State Police Academy September of '77, so I've been doing this for 47 years, almost 47 years. And this is sort of where I've lived my entire life, and I was an assistant public defender, and I was a prosecutor. There are two immutable, incontrovertible issues when you're talking about the criminal justice system. First of all, no community can be successful or affordable without safety. Secondly, you've got the whole idea of having a criminal justice system that serves the community as an asset, not an adversary, but as an asset, has to be established. You have to feel as if you can call the police and they will be there for you. Those two things. If you don't have those two things, you'll never have affordability, never have prosperity.
Don't you feel like a lot of times Democrats try to undermine that concept? Because I just see a lot of vitriol, a lot of kind of negative things said about the police and their role, and I feel like it's the opposite of what we should be telling these communities. Do you really want to be worried about your kids going to school and what might happen to them? Do you really want to be worried about taking a walk down the street at night, or going to your job, or going out for a night on the town? I mean, are these things we should be concerned about? And it's like, if you're going to have public safety, don't you have to have an environment where people trust the police, believe in the police, and want them to patrol their neighborhoods?
That's exactly it. And I think that, the police have to earn it. I get it. And police are human beings too. And you probably don't know, but when I was with the state police the second time around, a third of my job was representing the superintendent of the state police in disciplinary hearings where we disciplined New York state troopers who had violated their oath.
Of course.
I will not tolerate.
Of course.
I will not tolerate that.
I think there's always going to be bad apples in any profession.
Sure.
But, I would like to believe, and, you have better insights on this than anyone, I'd like to believe that most of them do it for the right reasons.
Oh, they do. They do.
Right? So it's like, there's a bad apple here or there, just like there is in any profession. But most of these people are out there to make better communities, to make people safer, so that businesses can thrive and prosperity can come to these areas.
And Jim, in upstate New York, especially New York State troopers and sheriffs, you'll find that these are people that come from the community that they're serving. I worked very hard to get home to my home station in Claverick because I wanted to help my community. We get the same thing up here. You see fellas, they go from Bethlehem, or they go from Albany County, or Saratoga, or Rensselaer, or Montgomery County, or Schenectady County, and they come back home and they serve their community. These are people they grew up with. They want to help. Every once in a while, like we were saying, you get a bad one. And when you get a bad apple, you take care of it. And we fire state troopers. And I know that it's a hard, people don't like to think of police misconduct. It happens every once in a while, but the vast majority, the 99% of the people that are working in the community are doing it for love of their community. They want to help. They want to be an asset.
All right, Ralph. Well, let's wrap this up. I think this was a great discussion. Are there any last thoughts about this race? Anything that you want the audience to know?
Well, yes. The other side is the party of grievance and victimhood. We are the party of hope and prosperity and renewal. We want to, and it's not going backwards.
And this area needs renewal, by the way.
It's going forward. It's Excelsior. That's our motto in New York State. We want to form a more perfect union. Republicans and conservatives, and by the way, the Democrats that I've talked to, the only ones that I really have trouble with are the really far left. that I don't think they don't even like themselves. You know, they're angry,
They're confused, that's for sure.
grievances left, right, and
Yeah.
center. But in our group, in what we do, we're trying to make things better, and I think everybody sees that.
Yeah.
And it's about time we do it.
Yeah. So how's the campaign gone?
Oh, it's going great. I'm doing 4 and 5 things a day. Saturday we did, I think it was at 5 events.
Yeah.
I'm doing 3 more today. I'm really happy. I could use support.
Yeah.
I could use support. And I'm not shy about asking for money because I think our cause is worth investing in.
Yeah.
So I'm asking for money. I'm asking for you to donate when you can. Do the best you can. I'd appreciate it. And God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of New York. And God bless the United States.
Thank you, Ralph.
My pleasure. Anytime.
Thanks for watching the Chairman's Club today. We'll talk to you soon.